We have got an interesting night for everybody coming up here.
Hi everyone. We have the black hole savant. We're gonna talk about Jason. So before we get in, I actually, you know what? Let's start off really quick. I made a TikTok recently telling everyone that can you prove why we don't need technology and tell everyone why we're powerful on our own, why we can use our consciousness and our plasma and we don't need a computer to make things happen.
So what quantum information holography is showing is that the universe is a holographic projection that is encoded on the event horizon of a black hole. And that means all of us are holograms, very complicated holograms, but we're holograms. And the definition of a hologram is that each piece of the hologram contains a reduced copy of the entire hologram. So in each piece of you, encoded as information and as geometry is every bit of information in the universe. So every bit of the universe's information is within each piece of you, and you, by being within the universe, are within each piece of it. So we are the observer and the observed.
Okay, and that's kind of what I talk about. And guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask. And just to introduce Jason, basically, Jason was on Good Morning America a few years ago. Jason is a acquired savant and he'll tell the story where he got literally hit in the head outside a karaoke bar, and now he's solving problems of the universe. He has a black hole theory. We talk about plasma a lot. So Jason, just his mind works crazy fast, and we met at a consciousness conference. So he's going to talk today about his black hole theories. Yes, he got smarter after getting hit in the head. And I got hit in the head yesterday, so maybe I'm more smart now too. But this is not about me right now. Oh, people are saying hi, Jason. No.
Hi, everybody.
What's your theory? Okay, what is your theory on the center of the world being a black hole? What do you think about that?
So the entire universe is a holographic projection from black holes. The singularity, or you can also think of that as the Big Bang. The Big Bang is the source of the projection, not just the spot where everything inflated from. And so everything in the universe is literally being projected onto the event horizon of a black hole from the singularity. Think of it like a movie projector, and the singularity is like all holographic plates stacked on top of each other in superposition, and it's connected through quantum entanglement to the holographic screen. So there's virtual particles of Hawking radiation that are in the singularity, and they are bobbing up and down like a fishing bobber on the interference pattern, like waves. Think of a calm lake, and then wind blowing on it and how it makes waves. Now imagine there's a virtual particle that's like a fishing bobber that's in the interference pattern of the singularity. It's bobbing up and down on the interference pattern, and on the holographic screen, which is the event horizon, is another virtual particle that is quantumly entangled with the virtual particle in the singularity. What quantum entanglement means is when one particle is found spin up or as a zero, the other particle is a spin down or a one. So they are mirror reflections of each other. So everything that's happening in the singularity as an interference pattern is projected as a hologram onto the holographic screen or the event horizon of the black hole. And inside the hologram's angles of light, those angles are equal to zeros and ones, which is, so you can describe our universe in terms of geometry and in terms of information, and they're the same thing.
And here's what I think, which is why I think it actually perfectly aligns to my theory, and I'm curious what you think about this. So I have a theory that the real alien contact going on is kind of a distraction, and the real kind of contact that's trying to be made is our higher self, or what you would call this other side of us in the singularity. And I'm getting more metaphysical, obviously. And someone else is asking a question, but I'll get to you guys in a second. So basically, if my theory is that this is me in 3D, and there's almost like my higher self in this fifth dimensional singularity space, what you're saying kind of proves that. And it's like, that's one charge, I'm the opposite charge, and then in the middle all this magic is happening, but I could access that information at any moment if I learn how to use my consciousness.
Yes, what this shows is that all information in the universe, all information, all possible realities, which is the Bekenstein, are an interference pattern in the singularity. What was the other question? So sorry.
Oh, that was it. I mean, I was just saying that you're proving my point. Hold on, someone else
Oh yeah,
has a
that's what it
question.
was. 5 dimensions. So the
Yeah.
singularity is 5 dimensions. So there's 3 spatial dimensions, X, Y, and Z. There's 1 dimension of information, and then 1 dimension of time. The singularity is like shining light onto these little films. When mass goes into a black hole, mass is just tangled up light. And so light converts to mass, and mass converts back into light. So when the mass goes into the singularity, or into the black hole, it's squished at the singularity and it becomes light again. And it's essentially shining on the interference pattern of the holographic plate in the singularity and projecting its image onto the holographic screen. But when you shine light onto an object, it casts a shadow of it -1 dimension. Like my shadow on the wall of my 3-dimensional hand is a 2-dimensional shadow. So light focused onto the singularity, which is 5 dimensions, including information, casts a shadow of a reality that is 3 spatial dimensions and 1 of time. So we are the
shadow realm. That would be the 4th dimension, which literally
Yes.
people call the shadow realm.
Yes, and we just proved for the very first time that light casts a shadow. It's now a published paper that light, we just, for the very first time, not we, but other scientists proved that lasers, when you shine them, they actually cast a shadow, which we didn't know until just a few days ago.
Wait, because that's insane. Because hold on, I'm taking notes, but I have questions at the same time. When you shine a laser, they actually cast a shadow. Because, okay, and what did you say? The shadow is what minus what? A shadow.
So whenever, like when I draw one of my drawings, I draw what equations look like, and so when you look at one of my drawings, it's a 2-dimensional drawing, but that drawing is actually a 3-dimensional object with a shining light on it, and it casts a 2-dimensional shadow. And our universe is 4 dimensions, 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time, but actual reality is 3 spatial dimensions, X, Y, and Z axis, 1 dimension of time, and 1 dimension of information, because the universe is composed of light, and the light moves at angles. So if I have a piece of light moving like this, it's a piece of light, but its angle contains slope, rise over run, which is slope. So light, by the way that it moves, contains information. That information we can convert into zeros and ones. So the universe, we can take Einstein's equations of relativity and quantum mechanics and rewrite these in terms of information and their equivalent. Only the information equations show origin, which is the holographic universe, like I'm seeing some people.
Literally what you're saying is proving what metaphysical people say about the 4th dimension shadow realm. And listen to this, and then we'll get to your questions, guys, in literally 1 second. I just have to give this download to Jason. The other day, I asked plasma, if you think of plasma as mass, because plasma holds soupy mass particles, that means that we're like light, and then in the 4th dimension, it kind of goes through this, it kind of turns into plasma, and that's how it gets to the 5th dimension and turns into light again. It kind of like is making me, I know that sounds crazy, but I had a download. It said I asked plasma to explain it to people, right? And it goes, just like a shadow with light behind it. This is an explanation of who we are against plasma. Just like we are always there, but you can't see the shadow unless light is shining on it. To study plasma, and that way you can't see it unless consciousness is shined on it. So if something is conscious, you'll see it, but then it just, isn't that weird though?
That's exactly what this is. So this is showing that the holographic screen, or the event horizon, is composed of the angular frequency of Hawking radiation that is leaving the black holes. So Hawking radiation is this special type of entangled particles that are emitted from the boundary of black holes. So there's a particle that's in the black hole, a particle on the event horizon, and they reflect each other just like a mirror. So the singularity is literally a mirror universe of this, where every single vector is flipped 180 degrees. They're literally mirror reflections. Think of the singularity as being like a spherical mirror. You ever see an infinity mirror where you look into the mirror and you see a reflection of a reflection of a reflection? This is exactly what black holes and event horizons are. The singularity is like a mirror. So imagine there's a singularity and it's a mirror, and I'm standing right here. And then around both of us is the event horizon, or the holographic screen. Since I'm in between them, there's a reflection of me in the singularity, which then reflects in the event horizon, which then reflects back and forth. And the way that this reflection takes place is quantum entanglement. because nothing
Okay.
can escape a black hole, not even light. But Hawking radiation allows the information of what's in the black hole to escape from the edge of the black hole.
The
And that
quantum entanglement is what makes it all happen.
the quantum entanglement of the holographic screen or the event horizon lets us look at what's happening in the singularity as though we're watching a movie through a mirror. It's like watching a television screen, but you're watching it in the reflection of a mirror. That's exactly what this is. It allows us to understand what's happening in the black hole without looking in the black hole, because you can't look in the black hole because it absorbs the light that you try to look at it with. But the Hawking radiation within the boundary tells you what's happening.
Okay, like what I would call plasma.
Exactly. So this shows, so what plasma is, or what quark gluon plasma, I should say, is. So quark gluon plasma is this special type of plasma. So whenever you, like in particle accelerators, if we shoot like two protons at each other and they smash into each other, right where they overlap in that little central piece, it forms a quark gluon plasma. And that quark gluon plasma is really weird stuff. It comes to thermal equilibrium at basically the speed of light. And what that means is, like, imagine you're in a cold bathtub and you pour in some hot water in the corner. How long does it take for that hot water to evenly distribute itself throughout the entire bathtub? It's quite a few minutes. Compare that to how long it takes light to travel across the bathtub. It's like almost instantaneous. And quark gluon plasma reaches thermal equilibrium at almost the speed of light. And this shows that the holographic screen, or the event horizon that is the projection of what's happening in the singularity, is a quark gluon plasma. So our universe is a holographic projection, and that projection is a quark gluon plasma.
You know why that isn't
contained within it defines reality.
That's crazy, because basically that proves to me that plasma is almost dying / regenerating, feeding this in black hole information, and then other stuff is being pumped out. That's probably the opposite of quark gluon plasma.
Yes, there's an antiparticle of everything, including you and me. So every single thing that exists, there is a mirror reflection in the singularity. The singularity is this one combined total source of truth, where everything in the universe, including you and me and everybody watching this, we are all together in the interference pattern of the singularity right now, all on top of each other in superposition. But when that
questions, everyone, soon. I see everyone's questions.
One second, I'll shut up. So, and that information in the singularity, when projected onto the boundary or the event horizon of the black hole, it makes us all feel separate in our projected states. But we are all one thing, and that is light and the information contained within light, the zeros and ones that light equals.
That is okay. And information would almost be like consciousness.
Exactly. So this Stuart Hammerhoff, where Dana and I met, we met at the conference for consciousness run by Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammerhoff. And it's all about, we are trying to understand the origin of consciousness. And this aligns, just like yin and yang, like somebody just said. This aligns exactly with what they're saying. They're saying there's microtubules in your brain. And these microtubules create a holographic image from the information contained within the microtubule. And what my theory is showing is that the universe is composed of little qubits, which are just like the microtubules, only much smaller, and they create a holographic image. And that holographic image is what's on the event horizon, and that image we can convert into a superposition of zeros and ones. So basically the universe is a quantum computer.
And in the microtubule, just so you know, just like you're saying between here and the singularity, in the microtubule, it's a mini process of that, where one of the dipoles has a different charge than the other one, and in between that is where all this happens.
Yes.
So
it's amazing. It's amazing that what we didn't know until just recently is that contained within the hologram is the zeros and ones. It's like the Matrix, only the code is written into the geometry of space-time, and the superposition of code of zeros and ones that is equal to that are identical. And as somebody else just said, frequencies, it is frequencies. So it's the angular frequency of Hawking radiation that leaves the black hole that allows us to understand what's happening inside of it. And the equation is something called the reduced Planck constant times angular frequency. That equals energy, which equals mass times the speed of light squared. So reduced Planck constant times frequency equals mass times the speed of light squared. If we solve that, we get, I'll shut up after this. The reduced Planck constant times angular frequency divided by the speed of light squared equals mass. So by looking at the angular frequency of the Hawking radiation that leaves the black hole, it allows us to understand the mass changes in the black hole and their charge and spin without looking in the black hole. We're looking at the Hawking radiation that leaves the boundary of the black hole to understand what's happening inside the black hole. It's like we were saying, it's like when we are looking at the universe, we are watching what is happening in the singularity where all information is contained, as though we're looking at a movie through a mirror.
Okay, let me ask 2 more questions, then we're going to get to the Q&A, guys. There's like so many messages. Okay, 2 questions. If information is consciousness, let's say light is the multidimensional self or you in the singularity, what would plasma be? Would plasma be the mass, the Hawking radiation? What would you make that comparison to?
Boy, trying to describe it exactly is difficult. So I would, the way that I explain it is, I'm sorry, say that again.
So basically, let's say the light is the singularity. It's what I would call the multidimensional self. It's your higher self. Then information in the space-time geometry is consciousness. What would you call plasma? Would you call plasma the mass?
So mass, you could. Mass literally in quantum information holography, and now we've actually proven this is true, and we've confirmed it at CERN, and the Department of Energy from the United States Department of Energy has proven this, and everybody can, if you get a chance, look. You can look it up. So there's something called the Wheeler effect, and in 1950 or 60, John Wheeler showed that if you can get light to collide with itself head on, it will create mass. And in my theory here, quantum information holography, space-time is composed of these spinning bits of light that are called quantum states, and they're vectors. And those spinning bits of light have information. And those spinning bits of light interfere with each other at the speed of light at different angular frequencies. And how they interfere, that is what mass is. And we just, at CERN and the Department of Energy just confirmed a few months ago, about 6 to 9 months ago, that we just created the very first mass in particle accelerators by colliding light waves head on.
So maybe that's literally what I would call, I think it's plasma.
Yeah, it's all related. What I have found that's amazing is that, so I talk to these scientists, and every equation can be graphed into a shape. So every shape actually is an equation. Like if I graph negative x squared, it makes this upside down parabolic arc like this. If I throw a ball in the air because gravity is like negative or 9.8 meters per second squared, it makes this upside down parabolic shape. So the path that the ball follows is geometry, and that geometry contains information like on a piece of graph paper that you see in algebra. And space-time is a piece of graph paper. It's just the graph is something called the Planck length. It's so tiny that the pixels, everything looks smooth. But you and I and everything are equations, holograms that are equal to equations moving relative to this grid structure, which is space-time, which is just like algebra. It's why they're the same thing. And most of these professors or scientists that I meet, they can only understand equations. Most of them don't understand geometry. If I talk to an artist, they understand geometry, but they don't understand equations. And what's funny is they're both talking about the same thing, just in different ways.
That isn't.
Yeah, sorry.
Question before, because so many people have questions, I have to get to them. Last question. Would you call dark matter anti-plasma?
So what dark matter, dark energy, and luminous matter are the types of angular frequencies. So dark energy composes about 68% of the universe. 68% of all numbers are numbers that are symmetric. And if you look at them as frequencies, they cancel each other out and they cause what's called decoherence.
Okay.
So 68% of all 68% of all angular frequencies that leave the boundary of a black hole decohere into nothingness. Okay. They match the exact density of dark energy. Prime numbers, which are a special type of angular frequency that have asymmetry, they don't decohere, they don't destroy each other, so they stay longer. They mimic what's called luminous matter, which is approximately 5% of all matter. So 5% of matter is prime angular frequencies. And then there's something called semi-prime angular frequencies, and that is the 62, that's about the remaining 26 to 27% of what's in the universe is dark matter. And
do
that
have to do with the anti version of some kind of anti-photon or anti-plasma, or like what is it?
So dark matter is angular frequencies that they don't decohere.
Okay.
They have more coherence. So it's like two peaks, when two waves meet and the two peaks hit each other, it creates a peak that's higher. If a peak hits a valley, they create nothing. They cancel each other out. Two dips hit each other, it makes a bigger dip. And so
Okay.
this is showing that prime angular frequencies are like two peaks hitting each other where it just totally amplifies what's on the holographic screen.
Okay.
Angular frequencies that are a combination of prime numbers, they have some decoherence, but they still are very coherent. And so that's dark matter. So luminous matter is angular frequencies that are prime numbers 7 and above, that don't decohere
Are
and
these
last
states
much
of
longer.
consciousness?
What now?
Is angular frequency consciousness?
Everything everything is angular frequency.
Everyone's saying,
Literally, and
okay.
I do mean everything. So
Okay.
like we can even take time dilation. So Einstein's time dilation equation is showing that that everything is moving through space and time at exactly the speed of light. So the faster you move through space, the slower you move through time, so that your motion through space and time is always exactly the speed of light. And so that's called the Lorentz factor in Einstein's time dilation equation.
Yeah.
And the Lorentz factor is 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus velocity squared over the speed of light squared. Now that's how time dilation works according to Einstein. My time dilation equation, which is correct and gives you the exact same answers as Einstein's and has been empirically verified since his has. All I'm doing is saying that velocity squared, which is in his equation, we can define that by light on qubits. I won't go into the details, but basically it's d theta, the angle of the quantum state vector on the qubit, relative to the qubit axis. That defines velocity using the speed of light. And the speed of light is what we call just 1. It's the radius of this little block sphere or unit circle. So in his equation, v squared over c squared, I can now replace that where instead of putting v squared in, I put in angular frequency squared. And instead of being divided by the speed of light squared, the speed of light is 1. 1 squared is just 1. So angular frequency divided by 1 is just angular frequency. So the new time dilation equation that shows the quantum mechanical origin of time dilation, the Lorentz factor is 1 divided by the square root of 1 minus angular frequency squared. And that is equal to Einstein's. Only Einstein's just shows how to calculate time dilation. This shows the quantum mechanical origin of time dilation that is equivalent to Einstein's.
God, sorry, I'm getting to people. Okay, hello
Sorry.
guys. Okay, Danny said, can you explain geometry and, I don't know if this is a real thing, germator? Is that something real or was that just being?
I don't know what.
Okay, we don't know what that is. Oh, what is the
I
name of the
can't-
people at the conference? Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose made what Jason was talking about is the OR theory about microtubules.
Yes.
Let's see. I'm just reading what other people are saying. Best live ever. Thank you. Denser.
Gematria? What's gematria? I've never heard of that before.
No clue. Agreements. I'm just reading. Could plasma be the movement between the shapes? Yes.
Yeah, so think of it like this.
Yeah.
Think of like when we look at a television screen, you see red, blue, and green pixels. You need these 3 different pixels. So whenever you look at a television screen, all you're seeing is red, blue, and green on all of your phones and your computers, everything. And they display at different intensities. So if you look closely at your screen, you'll just see red, blue, and green. But as you step back from the phone, all of those different frequencies overlap and they average together, like Richard Feynman's average of the sum of histories. All of those waves average together and you see the rainbow, even though you're only looking at red, blue, and green pixels. The event horizon of a black hole has 3 types of pixels: prime angular frequency, semi-prime angular frequency, and non-prime frequencies. And those 3 are like the contrast control on a television that allows you, against the black backdrop of a black hole, to say that all these bits of light are moving relative to that. It's this thing of light and shadow in contrast to each other, and the geometry that is contained within it that allows you to convert all of these equations into equations of information that are equal.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's so amazing. It's like things that we thought we couldn't understand. Once you understand that black holes aren't just these spots where nothing escapes, not only light,
Yeah.
they they store and project information. They're holographic hard drives. And the
What are?
information, yes, yes, and we are. So think of it like, I always tell people, think of it like Netflix, or like think of the singularity like Netflix or like a record player. I'll do it both ways.
Okay.
Think of it as a record player. A record has bumps and grooves on it that are vinyl, and the record is spinning,
Mm-hmm.
and a stylus reads the bumps and grooves, and it plays it onto the music on the speaker.
Yeah.
In this case, the event horizon is like this holographic screen. The singularity is like the record player, but instead of being vinyl, it's bumps, and it's an interference pattern of light waves where the mass converts back into light at the singularity, and it makes an interference pattern. All black holes are spinning at like 60 to 70% the speed of light, and Hawking radiation is like a double-ended light needle. One end of the Hawking radiation is touching the singularity or entangled with it. The other end of the Hawking radiation is entangled with the singularity. As the singularity spins, the Hawking radiation reads the interference pattern and plays the music or the movie on the holographic screen, and we're the movie.
The plasma screen, guys.
We
For all
are the
my
plasma screen.
fans.
Yes, and it's provable. That's what's so amazing, is this is provable, and this matches with all existing quantum mechanic equations and equations of relativity. It unites them because of information, and the reason why physicists haven't.
Let me interrupt. I wanted you to answer this part. This is really important because you said this in the beginning and no one was here. So as individuals, do we have any individuality, or are we part of the light watching the hologram? Tell them why they are powerful.
Yeah, we are. So we are both the observer and the observed. You are affecting and being affected by everything you're watching. Like I'm speaking right now, and I'm affecting you by saying what I'm saying, and you're affecting me because you're watching this, and I can see what you're saying, and I'm interacting with this phone. Everything is both the observer and the observed, and everything, no matter how small it is, isn't just important, it's necessary for the universe to exist. All possibilities must exist, and all possibilities aren't infinite. So there's not an infinite number of ways. Like there, if you ask, like, how many ways can we rearrange the molecules of our universe to make a new movie, it's called the Bekenstein bound. It's a huge number, but it's not infinity, which means after a big bang and a big crunch and a big bang and a big crunch, eventually the pattern repeats again. So all possible histories happen over and over again. And that's the weirdness of quantum mechanics, which now we're starting to understand because we know that black holes project information, and they project it geometrically and informationally, and those two things are the same.
Someone else said, are there differences in density with the dark and light? How does density work with that?
Yeah. There's a lot of different things that we're slowly coming together with. So it's the easiest way to put it is information density. So when we are looking at quantum states that are projected onto qubits from the singularity, the probability that that qubit will be a zero or a one, or constructive interference, is the angle of that quantum state, the cosine of that angle squared divided by 2. So the cosine squared of the angle of the quantum state vector divided by 2 gives you the probability of constructive interference, which is higher information density.
Okay,
The
so
signs.
if I apply it just so they understand, this is going to be like an esoteric metaphysical application. Let's say we create information with our consciousness, that let's just say information is consciousness. If we're creating worlds in our head and there are all these realities, we can maybe travel to different densities with our consciousness. And these densities can hold different visual realities, different pockets of information within the earth and elsewhere.
Absolutely. So when you observe something, you're collapsing the wave function. So in quantum mechanics, all possibilities are always happening. So at this moment, I could go left, I could go right, I could go up, I could go down, but all of those are happening simultaneously. I'm already forgetting what you said.
Oh, I was just making a connection. We'll move on.
Yeah. So this is one everything I wanted to. This will help. This helps a lot for people to understand like how this works and why scientists have been missing this for so long.
Yeah.
So Imagine you're playing a video game, and if you're playing, I don't know, Pac-Man or Donkey Kong or something, and you can see the video game on the screen, and you're watching the screen. Inside the video game, there's zeros and ones that are making what's on the screen happen. If I were to print out the zeros and ones in the computer on a piece of paper and put them next to the video game, the zeros and ones look totally different from what's happening on the screen, but they're the same thing. Informationally, they're identical. And so what physicists have been studying is the observable phenomenon on the holographic screen, but not the information that's projecting it. So they've been trying to understand reality by looking at the video game. So it's, in other words, it's trying to understand the zeros and ones of a video game by looking at what's happening on the screen and not even knowing that you're looking at a screen. That's the problem with physicists right now, is they don't even know yet, most of them, that they're looking at a holographic screen, and it's the information contained in that screen that will unify and does unify quantum mechanics and relativity.
Interesting, because okay, so I'm writing that down. It's the information within. It's almost like they're staring at a person and they can't see the blood and the veins within them.
Yes, and the person is the code. If you look at yourself, and I were to break you down into all the little quantum states, which are just these little hexagons, like you see in a beehive, like the hexagons behind me. Yeah. Imagine each one of these with just an angle of light, and the angle of that light encodes velocity using light. The rate of change of velocity is acceleration, which is curvature, and curvature, Einstein proved acceleration is equivalent to gravity. So these bits of light, it's a self-referential feedback loop. It's the mirrors reflecting light, and light uses itself to define information. But
which is how we're evolving.
Yes, when you break it down, everything is just these little bits of light spinning on these little qubit hexagons. And the way that that information interferes and creates these interference patterns is what we experience. Like everything in reality is a projection of black holes that is equivalent to the mass of what it's projecting. So if you were to look at the Earth, if you take a black hole that is the exact mass of the Earth and squish it down, that is what is projecting the Earth, is the sum total of smaller black holes that total the mass of the Earth. And what's projecting our universe is a singularity that is the mass of our universe, but squeezed into a tiny spot that is projecting it.
So technically our eyes are black holes because we're taking in information.
Everything is black holes. We are literally the projection of what's happening in a black hole.
Oh my, guys, you hear that? We're all black holes, and our eyes and every friggin' thing.
Exactly. And that's how you can think of black holes. Think of black holes as eyes and a mouth. They're both. Everything, all the light that comes into a black hole is encoded. So as light or anything goes into a black hole, this is what's so weird about black holes, and that's why they're so beautiful, is they're both things. They're creators and destroyers.
Yes, they're like Kali, guys. Kali, just telling my audience, because Kali, the goddess of destruction and creation.
Yes. So imagine, like, if I'm falling into a black hole, and we look at this from two different perspectives, this is relativity. So if I'm going into the black hole, I cross the event horizon, and from my perspective, I cross the event horizon, I'm in the black hole, and I'm gone forever. I can't escape out of the black hole because nothing can escape, not even light, even though information escapes in a sneaky way. But from an outside observer, so I go in the black hole, and from my perspective, I'm in the black hole, and now I'm in a different universe, and I can't come back to this one. But from your perspective, if you're outside watching me go into the black hole, well, black hole curves space-time. So as I approach the black hole, I start to speed up and go faster and faster. And to somebody else looking at me, time dilation to them makes me appear to slow down until I freeze and become smeared as a holographic image on the event horizon. So there's two different perspectives. From my perspective, I go into the black hole and I'm gone. And that's where the black hole is like an eye that absorbs everything. But to an outside observer, whatever goes into the black hole is encoded as a hologram and projected back out as Hawking radiation. So the black holes destroy and create simultaneously, which conserves information and energy. Nothing's ever created or destroyed, just transformed from light to mass, mass to light, and information is contained.
It's all a transmutation feedback loop.
Yes. Yes. We've had this conversation an infinite amount of times, and will an infinite amount of times in the future. Oh
my God. Okay. This person asked an interesting question. Is the horizon event the Z pinch point in a toroid? That's our pupil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know much about everything about how our eyes work.
Yeah,
But
I don't either.
what we see with our eyes is information. Color doesn't exist. Maybe later, if I can show you guys, I did a drawing of the rainbow, and the
Show
rainbow
us.
actually, huh?
There's a lot of audience. Show them.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't have it with me. It's on my
Oh,
phone.
oh,
I'll have to show you guys. It's on my Facebook page, but I will post it later. So the
tell
rainbow
everyone
is
where they can follow you because there's a lot of people on right now. Okay, guys, so you can follow Jason right now from this page, or what is your Facebook?
my Facebook page is just Jason Padgett. I have two different ones, a public profile and a regular. And I post. I'm now starting to make videos because AI is wonderful with how quickly it can make them. I'm making videos that explain a lot of these different things, piece by piece, where we don't go too much into the math. I've published the math on this site called Zenodo, but it's kind of boring to just read the equations.
Mhm.
Uh, but this is something that is understandable, and it's understandable by most of us. And that's what's so beautiful about it is it seemed like 20 years or even 10 years ago, it seemed too hard to solve. And once we understood that black holes project information, it all just crumbles. We can solve time dilation. The origin of gravity is just the rate of change, how fast these quantum states are spinning. Because the quantum states, when they're holding still, they define velocity using the speed of light. The rate of change of velocity, which is just how these angles change, that defines acceleration, because the definition of the rate of change of velocity is acceleration. And Einstein proved acceleration is equivalent to curvature or gravity. And so we're showing that the rate that these quantum states spin is geometrically curvature, which is gravity and acceleration.
And we're sorry, they want to know what you were going to say about the rainbow. I cut you off.
Oh yeah, so the rainbow is a qubit. So I drew what the number pi looks like, because pi is supposed to be the circumference of a circle divided by its diameter. And so I won't go into the explanation of it, but I drew it. But every time you look at the double rainbow, you're seeing light go into a circle, and it's being squared, and it's not really a perfect circle. So what pi proves, and this will only take a second to explain,
Yeah.
is that in the real universe, there is no such thing as a circle or a curve for real. They do not exist. And at first that sounds impossible, but we're all looking at our screens right now. On our screens, you see circles on your screen, like for where it says Dana
Yeah.
Kippel, I can see your face in a circle. But that
Uh-huh.
circle is made with little square pixels. So if you zoom in real close, you see, oh, it's not a circle, it's a zigzag because it's pixels, but the pixels are so tiny that it looks like a curve. Now imagine you
It's the
take the
shape.
yes. So imagine you take the pixels and you cut them in half to a pixel half that size. Then you cut those in half, and you cut those in half, and you cut those in half. You can keep cutting pixels in half to infinity, and the resolution gets better, but you never get to a perfect circle because you can keep cutting them in half forever. So as pi's digits go out further,
Mhm.
they're describing the resolution of a shape that looks like a curve that's really composed of squares. Like I look like I'm curved, but
Yeah.
I'm made of rectangle cells. So I'm
Yeah.
not a curve, I'm pixels, but the cells are so small that relative to how big we are, it looks like a curve. But if you're a bacteria on my skin, it's going to look like mountains.
Oh my, that's
So
that.
curves are illusions and they don't exist. There's
Wow.
just, and that's what calculus is. Calculus is how we approach the smoothness of curves, and we approach the area under a curve, but we never reach it. We just get infinitely close.
That's it. Someone just said something really interesting earlier about they were saying that they saw a video that light is an angel and an angel is an angle, like angular
Yes,
frequency.
yeah, literally. I mean, like I've had a lot of people ask me about God and things like that,
Yeah.
and what I say is, if you define God as
Mhm.
the source of all knowledge, the sum total of everything, that's the singularity. And the
Yeah.
singularity is made of pure light. And so it applies, people can apply it scientifically, and they can also, apply it spiritually. Like my grandmother loves it because she says, God said, let there be light, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm just, all I'm saying is that for sure, we can describe everything in the universe with one thing, and it's the most fundamental thing in existence, and that's the speed of light. That's why it's in Einstein's mass times the speed of light squared, is because the speed of light is squared because the light waves are colliding head on. That's where the speed of light squared comes from, is the interference pattern of the light.
So how do we break the speed of light? Obviously the speed of light is basically how our universe functions, but to create non-locality, how do you explain that relationship with like breaking the speed of light? Is that breaking the speed of light, or is it being
So
non-local?
yeah, it's non-local. The entire universe, and this shows why the entire universe is non-local. Everything is non-local, which means that one thing here affects that other thing. When there's a qubit spin up in the singularity, it's spin down on the holographic screen,
Mhm.
and that happens instantly. But what that actually is, the universe operates like a quantum computer. But in quantum computers, they're so delicate. We have to figure out all these sneaky ways to have error correction. Because if you just vibrating something destroys a quantum interaction, and
Okay.
so oh, well, now I'm sorry, I'm losing
My
my train of
dog
thought.
is distracted. Okay, basically I was saying like how can you explain non-locality and breaking the speed of light?
So
Like
yeah, so nothing can move faster than the speed of light because
okay.
everything. That's the weird thing about this. And Leonard Susskind, he's the chair of Stanford physics. He also says the same thing, that that's the weird thing about the universe is that information isn't where we think it is. It's
Mhm.
all on top of each other in the singularity. So it's literally in the same location. It just feels separate when it's projected. So we
Whoa.
are all together, but we feel like we're separate, but we're all one bit of information. We are all with one bit of us entangled that is a mirror reflection of us, all together in the singularity, which is this one point where all information resides. The one point where everything is happening at once. It's the real everything everywhere all at once. The
Oh my God, we're
singularity
all in a
is
square.
we are the everything bagel.
Oh
The
my God.
singularity is the everything bagel. It's all things on the bagel, and when projected onto the holographic screen, it
Yeah.
feels separate, but we're all together, and we're all the same thing. We all have more in common than we
Yeah.
don't than we have not in common.
Someone just sent an analogy, and I'm going to give one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying, I'm going to say it in a metaphysical way to just translate to my metaphysical people, is that we're literally, you say a square, right? So, or a circle, but maybe a square. We're all in this universe, this three-dimensional realm. We're in a square at all different densities, which might hold different information pockets, different worlds. It's more densities than dimensions. When we talk
Yes.
about dimensions, we could call the kind of intersection point of quantum entanglement between the fifth dimensional singularity and the third dimensional world. That is how I see more dimensions outside the box, thinking outside the box. That's actually thinking outside the box means a lot more to me now.
Yes. So in this case, space-time is composed. Don't let me forget information density, but I'll tell you
I'll write that
how
down.
this is. So space-time, I have a drawing of this also. It's called E equals mc squared, but y equals mc squared. Space-time itself is composed of these little cubes, but they're it's like looks like a hexagon, like a bee's hive. Hexagons two-dimensionally, but if you look at it three-dimensionally, it makes cubes. But it's just a perception
Oh
thing.
yes, I know what you're talking about.
And so these they're called Planck qubits. They're these little hexagons.
I'll show everyone while you're talking. I'll
No
draw.
problem. They're like a detector. So Leonard Susskind, he's the chair of Stanford physics, and they have most of these equations, but they don't know what they're looking at. So they have the equations that explain the correct thing, but since they don't know that black holes project holograms onto their event horizons, they don't understand what to do with the equations. So what they've proved is like Leonard Susskind, he exactly just like that two-dimensional hexagon, which can also be viewed when you connect those vertices, those vertexes, that becomes a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional box. And if I shine a light on that three-dimensional box, it casts the two-dimensional shadow, and vice versa. And so what we are is we are this four-dimensional shadow of the five-dimensional information that is at the singularity, that is projected onto the holographic screen.
This is not a good
When somebody asked why weren't we taught this, it's because it's only just recently. I've been working on this for like about 20 years, and only in like the past 2 years has it come together. And one thing that really sped it up was artificial intelligence, because I had to go to school. In college, I went to school for like 2 years before I could get my calculus teachers to agree with me that circles don't exist. I came in to day one for algebra one, and I already had all this done. I had it drawn, but I didn't realize that physicists and professors, they're looking at equations as just numbers, whereas I look at them as the numbers are geometry, and they really are. And that's provable. But I couldn't prove it until I went to college for like 2 years, because I had to learn how to write it in equations to prove it step by step. So
Yep.
first day when I walked into class, they were like, "What's this?" And 2 years later, they're like, "Yes, we agree." And so really, we're all talking about the same thing. It's just we all typically look at it in different ways. Yeah, and somebody who just said this, circles do not exist. No, you approach a circle, but you never, ever, ever reach a circle. And just the way to think about it is just imagine cutting pixels on your screen in half and in half and in half and in half. There's always half left over, and you get closer and closer to a curve, but you never, ever reach it. So when
Oh,
somebody says flat earthers are right, well, that's one of those things that it's going to be funny, because there's going to be a lot of people debating about this.
yeah.
The universe is 4 dimensions. We are 3 spatial dimensions and 1 dimension of time, but we can encode information. And this is what the holographic universe principle is. The holographic universe principle shows and proves that we can encode our reality on the surface area of an event horizon, or on the boundary of an object. So every object that exists in the universe, on its boundary, like the walls of this room, I can describe every particle and everything in this room by describing the boundary of the room. And that's what we're doing here, is we're showing the boundary of our universe is really this holographic screen that contains the information of the entire universe. So even though we
Yeah.
experience 4 dimensions, technically it's encoded on a 2-dimensional surface.
And I was going to say, someone asked, yes, plasma is the space between, guys. At least that's what I'm saying.
I
Just
think
like
so
the
too.
Matthews Band song. What would you say about, and the space between, what you're saying, the boundary, it's almost like that's like the 4-dimensional box boundary. It's like if we're in a square, that's the picture frame, and it's shooting from all different angles from these black holes, the
Yes.
3D projection.
So I have a picture of this on my Facebook page. But imagine the singularity like a disco ball,
Uh-huh.
and it's surrounded by a bunch of little spheres that are like disco balls that together themselves make a larger sphere, and they're just reflecting back and forth. And how these light waves interfere with each other, that is what our reality is. Our reality is the interference pattern of the light waves, and those interference patterns is what mass is. Time is the angle that those light waves are moving relative to the qubits. And again, when you're moving in a straight line relative to a cubic axis, you're moving at the speed of light, which means you're moving totally through space, and you're not moving through time. So there's no time. But when you're moving at angles, you're moving partially through space and partially through time, and the total motion through space and time always equals exactly the speed of light, which is what Einstein taught in his special relativity.
I made a little thing there. I feel like this kind of what he's saying. This is like the singularity, and it's kind of, there's this boundary. This is just a different way. It's like we're in a plasma painting, guys, of consciousness,
Yes.
information coming from that, and it's all projected from this 4th dimensional boundary from the 5th dimensional singularity.
Yes, imagine it like a snow globe. The surface of the snow globe, and imagine there's a projector like a movie theater, and it's projecting and reflecting off the boundary of the snow globe. And that boundary of the snow globe, its image that is on that, contains the information that tells you everything that's in the snow globe.
Whoa. Okay,
So
what
in
would
this
you
case,
say?
the surface of the snow globe is the event horizon, and inside the snow globe is the singularity.
Okay, and what would you say about NDEs, or near-death experiences? What is your theory when we die? Do we go to the singularity?
So this shows exactly what happens when we die, and that's one of the reasons why this kind of stuff is so interesting to me. Not only do I love the math, but I love the philosophical side of it. Who doesn't want to know what happens when you die? Where do you go?
You had a near-death experience.
Yeah, I got attacked in a robbery, and it's a long story, but yes. So what happens after you die?
Mm-hmm.
So the universe has a big bang.
Okay.
And I won't go too deeply into it because it takes too long, but these black holes are entangled, they're connected by wormholes, and as the universe expands, even though it's speeding up now, eventually those wormholes that connect the black holes are kind of like rubber bands. They reach this eventual point where they're at their maximum like stretch, and the universe collapses back into a big crunch, and then boom, it rebounds in a big bang, and then a big crunch and a big bang. Each time there's a big bang, there's a possibility that all the molecules of that universe will line up just like this one, so the same exact history happens again. That's a really small probability, but it's a probability.
Okay.
There's a Nobel Prize winning equation by Stephen Hawking and this guy named Bekenstein, that they proved that the number of ways that you can rearrange the information in our universe is 2 to the 123rd power. It's a really big number, but it's not infinity. What that means is after 2 to the 123rd Big Bangs, the exact same pattern must repeat. So the patterns, there's 2 to the 123rd power different histories of our universe. And once you've had that many Big Bangs, the same histories start to repeat. So when you die, you're just energy, which is just light. You come back apart into your molecules, but eventually, after 2 to the 123rd Big Bangs, the same pattern happens again. And when you're dead, you're not in a form that can remember anything. So you can't retain memories. So when you die, the next thing you know is you're a baby. Because even though it's the Googleplex years in the future. And a lot of times people will say, that's so far in the future, it doesn't matter. But what I tell them is this: do you remember waiting to be born? We know that this universe is at least 13.5 billion years old. All the atoms and energy that was you has been in this universe, and you had to wait 13.5 billion years to be born, but you don't remember any of it because you weren't in a form that can retain memories. So time is meaningless when you can't observe it. So you die, the next thing you know is you're a baby again, or you're in the next universe, whatever history that universe is. And eventually all histories happen over and over again. So no, we don't die permanently. In fact, to us, it seems continuous, even though it can be a Google years in between when you're born and when the same history happens again. It doesn't matter because to you, it's instantaneous. And when some people, like I just saw somebody said, time is an illusion or past lives that they remember. Well, the definition of a hologram is every piece of the hologram contains a reduced copy of the whole hologram, which means that every bit of us is composed of these quantum states, which are themselves a combination of all quantum states. So I am within the universe, and the universe is within each piece of me. So let me
say this. Tell me if you agree or disagree, because I remember past lives too, and I have very intense memories, and I know for me it is a soul journey. What could explain me getting in that memory when I'm here is, yes, I don't remember those lives being born. Maybe I don't remember it when I hop from life to life. But some of us who can access this fifth dimensional space, this multiverse of consciousness, whatever, of information, maybe we are literally remembering other lives. We're not meant to.
Yes. Well, and in some universes, you are meant to. All possibilities happen. So in this universe, we don't remember. In some, you do. But in each piece of you, each quantum state is composed of all possible quantum states. So every possible history resides as a holographic information in each bit of you. So everything in the universe is contained within each of us. So if you are like anything that you can imagine, as weird as this sounds, this is quantum mechanics and the weirdness, any possible movie that can be displayed on the event horizon is an actual real history, which means any movie that we have seen in a movie theater is a possible movie on the event horizon, which means everything that you can think of is actually real history in some version of the universe.
I always say that because number one, that's why movies feel so real. And number two, I'm an actor too. And when I act, it feels like I'm almost downloading that consciousness of that character. And I'm like, this has to be real somewhere.
Yeah, and we are. We are the projection. You and I are a movie on the event horizon. We are. It's like this is another way to think of it. Think of it like Netflix. Netflix has a library of movies, and so imagine this is the library of all Netflix movies, and it streams them to our computers or our holographic screens. The singularity contains the Bekenstein bound, which is 2 to the 123rd power number of films. It projects them through quantum entanglement and Hawking radiation onto the event horizon. So we are one of the histories, one of the possible movies of our universe's history playing out on the event horizon.
There's two very important questions, and I think I have my opinion, you have yours, and I think they kind of meet. There is, the free will question, and also, sorry, I'm just trying to get the other one because it was very important. Yep. Just keep that in your head for a second.
I'm writing it down.
Hold on. Okay. free will, and then sorry, everyone's going so fast. Sorry, guys, hold on.
Yes, I do think the government knows some of this, but I don't think they know a lot of it, because what we could do with it, we're about to make a jump, like going from from like 1850s to Einstein's, how he changed the world. We're making a leap right now that's many thousands of times bigger than that. So the universe, our world is going to be unrecognizable in the next 10 to 20 years.
It's going to be like solar punk.
Yes, we are going to be able to, because see, we are a holographic projection. So now understanding how that works. So imagine, like, if I'm looking at my telephone screen right now, it's just pixels that are changing colors. But what I'm doing right now is we're designing a screen that is a three-dimensional screen, because it has pixels, and the pixels spin instead of just changing colors. And when they spin, they create a holographic projection. So we are, and already do have, holographic projections. Yeah, so look, anybody who's watching right now, type in Doom, the video game Doom, DOOM, and volumetric display. There's a man who just invented, it's a little square plate that spins inside of a glass sphere. And as it spins, it flashes lights, and that makes a hologram. So imagine we're going to have TVs that are spheres, but we can also do it as flat screens. That as you walk around, it's a full-on hologram. So I'm
showing it to everyone if they could see it.
Yes, Doom. So when you see that is literally what I'm talking about. So the surface of that thing that you're seeing, that is the event horizon. The little plate that is inside is the singularity, and the lights that are flashing, that is the quantum state vectors being emitted as Hawking radiation. As the black hole spins, the right frequency of that information creates a holographic projection, and the holographic projection contains information that's zeros and ones.
Really quick, I have to plug my book, because, so guys, basically Jason has books. You can go follow his page right now. You definitely need to follow him. Go follow him on Facebook. Also, I have a book coming out, A New Force. And just as Jason is going to, come up with new ways to create this world based on the knowledge that we're holograms, my book, which you can get by subscribing, go to the link in my bio or danakippel.com. I'm going to be telling you guys how to harness these powers of astral projection, of manifestation, with your consciousness, with this plasma, with your multidimensional self or your selfness singularity, to live a better life. And that is my purpose. And Jason, what are you going to do? Yeah.
So ask me about that in a second. I was gonna I'm trying to remember. Oh, so somebody else asked, how did the black holes get there? But don't forget that question. I'll answer that in a second. So somebody asked, how do the black holes get there? So this shows that they always exist. And the way that they form is by not being able to look at something. And this is also very weird. So see the wall behind me? I can see it on my phone right now, but just pretend I can't see the wall. You can see the wall, but since I can't see it, it's like Schrodinger's cat that's alive and dead. The wall could be blue. It could have a hole in it. It could be on fire. All the things that it could be sum to the number 1, which is 100%. And only when I look at the wall does this wave function collapse and one version of reality becomes real. So when you're not looking at something, it exists in superposition, which is all possible states. When the universe is flashing at Planck time, it's like picture frames in a movie, and Planck time is the fastest that time can go. I won't go into why, but it's the fastest. In between the picture frames of that's playing out on our holographic screen, there's a moment less than Planck time where you can't observe anything. And in those moments in between the picture frames, when you can't observe anything, all particles exist in superposition, where like a photon is here, it's there, it's left, it's right, it's in all possible positions. And one of those positions or possibilities is 2 photons of opposite spin on 1 Planck area, which is 1 qubit. When you have 2 photons of opposite spin on 1 Planck area, by definition, and this is from like Leonard Susskind at the chair of Stanford Physics, by definition, it collapses in two entangled black holes that are connected by a wormhole, and those black holes start to emit this special type of light, which is called Hawking radiation, and that special type of light is the projection of what happens in the singularity, cast as a shadow of light onto the event horizon.
Which I think has to do with plasma, guys.
And the event horizon is plasma. It is we are literally the
It's all
music
plasma.
playing from black holes that is composed of a quark gluon plasma screen, which is the event horizon.
Yes, and then I think what goes back into it is obviously anti-quark gluon plasma, which I think is what I'm writing about. Do I know what that is? Absolutely not. Let's get
You know
to
what?
yeah.
What gets me is you understand this better than many professors that I talk to. A lot of these professors, their minds are closed. They're brilliant at what they do, but what they do again is just studying the observable phenomenon on the holographic screen, and they're so scared to step out of their box because they're worried if they say something that's slightly wrong, it's going
Yeah.
to ruin their career. But
Yeah.
I'm in a position in life now where I'm going to say how it is, and I'm not going to
Same.
try to say how I think everybody wants it to be to
Yeah.
keep my job at this college.
Yeah. We're gonna
We
tell the
need to
truth.
disrupt things because this is how it works.
Yeah, we're gonna tell the truth, and if we're wrong, we're wrong. That's the thing. We don't really have that. I'm sure we have egos, right? Of course we have
Right.
egos. But for me at least, I'm gonna share what I feel like is true, and if that changes, or if someone builds on that, or if that helps humanity move forward, great. And if I'm wrong, I'm freaking wrong. I don't care.
Yeah. What's nice about this is like the mathematics behind it. The worst that a physicist could say now is that's not really how the universe works, but they have to say the math is right. And for math to accidentally describe gravity, quantum entanglement, holographic screen, the holographic universe principle, time dilation. And what gets me, see, now that we have this time dilation equation where we replace velocity squared divided by speed of light squared with angular frequency, it is the exact same equation. So it already is empirically verified. We've tested Einstein's time dilation equation, which is the central core of everything.
Yeah.
We've tested that and it matches observations perfectly. My equation shows the quantum mechanical origin of time dilation and it gives the exact same answers as Einstein. So it is empirically verified. It's proven that this does describe reality.
Yeah.
It's what's called a dual description. This information description of reality is a dual description of quantum mechanics and relativity, both combined under information. And the equations are equivalent. It's like saying 1 plus 3 equals 4, which equals 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 equals 1 plus 3.
Let me explain this to them really quick. So, guys, when you think about things you're feeling in your soul and metaphysical and artistic perspectives, basically, Jason is saying, because Jason thinks and sees in numbers and sacred geometries, what you guys are feeling in your emotions, in your soul, Jason is basically saying math is a language for that. It's not the only language, but he sees it that way, and he can prove your soul experiences. He can prove why near-death experience is real, why astral projection is real, why we have a fifth dimensional, multi-dimensional self and a singularity. Maybe he doesn't say it that exact same way, but
it's true.
Yeah.
It's true, but when you guys are seeing sacred geometry, I draw sacred geometry, but it's also equations. Every equation can be graphed into a shape, and space-time is this grid structure. And the grid structure of space-time, the holographic screen, is 100% dot for dot identical to the flower of life. The flower of life and space-time are the exact same shape. So people who are talking about sacred geometry and physicists that are talking about how things move relative to this grid structure, it's the same thing. They're just describing it, one with geometry and one with equations, but they're actually the same thing. Just like the singularity and the holographic screen, they're reflections of each other. They're two different ways of talking about the exact same thing. Like space and time are two halves of the same coin.
I'm freaking out.
Geometry are the same thing.
Sorry, I have to say this. So basically, in my opinion, guys, space-time geometry is the intersection of plasma and consciousness meeting. It is the feedback loop. It is the flower of life. It is all of it.
The holographic screen. It's the singularity, the holographic screen, and the quantum states that are the interference pattern, the quark gluon plasma between the two.
Yes, it's all it's where the universe is literally, it's proof that the universe is feedbacking and learning about itself as we're learning about ourselves. And it sends the information back to the friggin' singularity, then it sends information back out to us. It's proof.
Somebody just asked, has this changed my life? And I'm absolutely, like, I see everything that way. Like if you can see relationships that way. I mean, no matter what it is, you can look at it as information density. Like if a guy is going out to a bar all the time, and his girlfriend is getting mad because of like the density of how often he's going to the bar versus how she's home. Or if she doesn't like him and she wants him gone, then she's probably happier when he's gone to the bar more. So it all depends on the relative who's observing what and the information being relative to them. So it's very interesting. You can apply it to anything. You can apply it to, we can apply it to our senses. So this is showing that the universe is like information encoded. So when you see like a color, colors don't exist either. Just like circles, colors don't exist as we think of it. Colors are information. Short wavelengths of light are blue, long wavelengths of light are red. But what makes a color is the distance from one peak of the wave to the next peak. And so your brain,
types
your
of
eyes actually,
consciousness.
huh?
I'm telling everyone, guys, colors are types of consciousness. This is why you might see some light beings who are.
Oops, you just went quiet.
I was saying this might be the explanation for auras, for seeing different lights and beings, and maybe they're communicating in different frequencies or ultraviolet versus whatever. Anyway, keep going. I was just explaining.
Yeah, no, this actually shows the same thing. All realities are real. Think of the holographic screen. The event horizon is just like a TV, and you can tune to different frequencies. Mm-hmm. And the angular frequency of what you're tuning to, that is your reality. So when you see somebody who has like schizophrenia and they're talking to somebody who's not there, that reality that they see is real someplace. So what it looks like schizophrenia is literally their brain being tuned to a different frequency. And so, because all realities are real, they happen at different rates. Like there's some more common realities and some less common, but all realities are defined by their angular frequency. And that angular frequency, we can convert into regular visible frequency through something called a Fourier transformation. So it literally
also proves why schizophrenia is real. And remember what we said is really important. What has to do with what do we need to affect to possibly solve schizophrenia or Alzheimer's? What was it we were telling each other?
To solve it or to cure
Isn't it how their consciousness reflects off the plasma? Like obviously they're seeing multiple realities at once. So there must be some solution that has to do with how they're sensing this Hawking radiation or this plasma and interfering with their consciousness in the wrong way. Right.
Yes, so think of it like all possible movies are on the holographic screen, and each movie or each history of the universe is like a channel that you can tune to on your TV. Their brains are tuned to a channel that is different than ours. Like we all can pretty much agree on what's happening around us, even though everything's relative and it changes. We're all kind of going basically the same speed, so we're seeing a version of reality that's so similar we can all kind of agree. But somebody who has schizophrenia is literally tuned into a frequency that is not this one, and they're seeing a reality that's real someplace, but we don't agree with them that it's real here, even though it technically is real. Like I could have schizophrenia right now and be talking to, a tree, but I think it's a phone and you guys, so what is real reality is dependent on who's looking at it.
And let's get into, okay, so there's a couple more things to get into. How about the free will? I'm going to say my opinion, and then I want you to feed off that with your theory. Sorry, my dog was eating something, so I had to. I basically think
he's affecting and infecting you. He's affecting the observer and the observer.
So basically, I think, guys, that there is free will in Jason's theory, because when he talks about the Bekenstein bound and all these realities and it does restart, in my theory, because this is a complex universe, certain between this consciousness and plasma feedback, between this triad feedback of the third, fourth, and fifth dimension, or 3D, the singularity, and space-time geometry, or the shadow realm, whatever you want to call it, between this feedback, emergence can happen where there is a completely new reality born. It isn't out of the question. It isn't as frequent, just like on Earth, most art is regurgitated or the same and has the same archetypes. But sometimes someone makes a completely fresh new thing and it's beautiful. And Jason, can you speak on that?
Yeah, so I go back and forth about free will. So this shows that all realities actually happen, but they don't happen in the same order. And so I constantly think that I'm like, when I decide I'm going to go left, there's a version of me that can't go left because I decided to go left.
Okay.
And so they have to go forward and backwards. So when I go left, there's a version of me that goes all possible ways that it can go. What do I consider myself? Do I consider myself this exact reality where everything is exactly like it happens, like here with every atom in me down to its spin is the same thing? If that's what I consider me, then there might not be free will. But if I consider the way that I am flowing through these histories and how that can change, then that does give you free will. So I go back and forth. One day I'm like, oh, we don't have free will. And the next day I'm like, well, I think we do, because even though all realities happen, you can change the path.
So maybe there is a set version of realities that we have free will within. We can dance within our box. The box has whatever, the Bekenstein bound 200 kajillion lives. But our free will, what people call quantum jumping, I don't really like that word, but with each choice, we can go into another reality. And that is free will. There's just a set number of options for us.
Right. And the bigger the universe gets, the more options there are, because there's more ways that you can rearrange the states. So that's just our universe. But as our universe expands from dark energy, and that actually dark energy is what powers this quantum computation that our universe is doing. Our universe is a hologram that's like a quantum computer. But what is the power source? The power source is dark energy. Dark energy makes the universe expand and get bigger and bigger. And as the universe expands, the event horizon gets larger, or the boundary of our universe gets larger. And as the boundary gets larger, it can store more information. So dark energy, by making the universe expands, makes it able to process more information, and information is energy. And so as the universe gets bigger, there's more quantum states that it can occupy. So, and from that perspective, you are right. If we keep making the universe bigger and bigger infinitely, then as it gets larger, it's constantly creating new histories.
Yeah.
Since we can get bigger to infinity, we could have new histories to infinity.
Yeah. I'm on the free will train. Jason is on the paradox train. It probably is.
Yeah, I'm balanced between the two. Can't decide.
It's probably honestly a version of both, to be completely honest.
Superposition.
Yeah.
So you want to hear something funny about superposition and Schrodinger's cat? This is a new take. This solves, or not, when I say solved, it does solve, but it gives us a new take on Schrodinger's cat. So Schrodinger says there's a cat in a box, 50-50 chance that the cat can be dead or alive, but we don't know until we look at it and open the box and actually look at it. So while we can't see it, the cat is both alive and dead. So now imagine I open the box and I see, oh, the cat's alive. But now imagine me and the cat are in another larger box, and you're outside of that box looking at me and the cat that are both in this big box. Okay. I open my box and I see the cat's dead, but me and the cat are still in a box, and you can't see either one of us. So the cat's still alive and dead to you, even though it's dead to me. And that's how all realities exist, because even though I'm saying, yep, the cat's alive, to you, the cat's still alive and dead, because you can't observe me or the cat. And space-time is boxes within boxes, or qubits within qubits. Yeah. So even though I realize one reality, it's just my version. Your version and other people's are different, and both versions are actually real. It's just who experiences what. It's in the eye of the beholder,
just like someone said. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I think that is what you're saying.
It's literally relative. So like I did a TED Talk. I've done a couple TED Talks, but my second TED Talk was a TEDx, and it's called Alternate Realities from Relativity. It's only about 7-8 minutes long, and it describes how color, smell, taste, touch, everything that you see about an object changes when you move relative to. I can explain it real quick if you want me to.
Yeah, explain. We have about 20 minutes, so do this, then we'll get into simulation, and then how you're going to make your mark on the world.
Yeah, this is showing simulation is definitely the simulation is the geometry is the simulation is the geometry. They're the same thing.
A spiritual simulation. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. So when it comes to relativity and how things change depending on who's looking at it. So we look at my shirt here and we say my shirt's blue, but blue is just a short wavelength of light, and red is a long wavelength of light. And you know how you hear a car drive by you and the car goes when it changes pitch? That's because as the car's coming towards you, the sound waves are leaving the car, but since the car is moving towards you, the waves get squished together, which makes them shorter wavelengths. So I hear shorter wavelengths, I hear as a high pitch. And the car goes when it moves away from me, and as it's moving away from me, those wavelengths stretch out which make longer wavelengths, which I hear is a low pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Now imagine the car is coming from me towards you. Well, relative to me, it's moving away from me. So the waves are stretching out. I hear the pitch getting lower. But relative to you, at the same time, it's approaching you. So the waves get squished together and you hear a high pitch. And you stop right there and say, what pitch is the car making? A low pitch to me or a high pitch to you? And it's making both relative to who's looking at it. Then you imagine we have an infinite number of people. They're all looking at that same car, but all the people are moving at different velocities. They all hear a different sound, and every reality, even though they're different, are real. So the car is actually making all sounds. Now, if we said you could apply that to light and everything else. Blue is a short wavelength of light, and red is a long wavelength. So if you had a twin, and your twin and I shot away from this camera at close to the speed of light, the waves would stretch out, and you would see my shirt change to red. But if you had a twin traveling with me, would see my shirt as blue. And then you say, what color is my shirt, blue or red? It's both, depending on who's looking at it.
That's amazing.
That applies to everything, to light, time, taste, touch. If I could move at the right frequency, I could make you look like an apple, be the shape of an apple, taste like an apple.
A hologram.
An apple. Huh?
It's a hologram.
It's a hologram, and the hologram, what it is defined as, depends on who's looking at it. And to them, it is that.
That is why someone could know you and think something completely different than I do, because it's their own beliefs and projections. And that's kind of when I get into, in my book, which I'll shout out one more time, it's called A New Force, guys. You could sign up on my page. Basically, if we learn how to open our mind away from the limiting beliefs, we could think more singularity-like or fifth dimensional, where maybe we could see a truer reality because we don't have those conditioned beliefs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what we're going to try to do. So my book, so I haven't had that you mentioned a book. I'm going to my book's called Struck by Genius, and it was optioned to be made into a movie in 2014 by Sony Pictures and this actor named Channing Tatum.
A very cute actor.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. My wife did, and since I have all girls in my family, they all just absolutely freaked out about Channing Tatum. But there was also a guy named Jeremy Renner who was bidding for it also. But since then, we've got a new production company, and we don't know exactly who is going to play in it. But the screenplay is done, and in the movie, we're going to show these things. We're going to fly into the singularity and show the projection onto the holographic screen, and how. So that people can visually see it. And I do it in my videos now where I'm having AI. Now I can put my equations only into AI, and it can generate images based on my equations. And the images that it's generating are almost identical to what I'm drawing. It's absolutely amazing.
That's I've trained mine on plasma. It's doing the same kind of stuff. Okay. What do you think? Okay, we kind of went over simulation. Let me ask you, what is your next plan to make your mark? What are you doing with all this knowledge you have? What is your plan for the next 5, 10, 15 years of your life?
The main thing I want to do is because I'm like you, like Dana and I, we'll sit on the phone and we'll just talk about this. We're just it's like we swallowed a star. Yeah. It's just you just all we want to do is tell people, because it's so exciting. Yeah. People, we all want to know where we come from, where we're going. You know, like why we fear death, and why this helps us alleviate some of that fear. We need fear of death, and we need these fears that we have in order to live. If I wasn't afraid of anything, I would go up and I would pet a lion and it would kill me and I wouldn't pass on my DNA. So these fears are necessary. And what I want to do is I want to give some people some relief from this, knowing that, hey, when you die, that's the sucky part, but dying is being born. Yeah. When you die, the next thing you know is you're born again. So you get to be and do all possible versions of reality for infinity. That's pretty damn cool. you know,
we're not alone. We're not alone either. We have our own entangled twin in the fucking singular.
Absolutely. That's all right. We do. We have our own entangled twin that is a mirror reflection of us in the singularity and all possible versions of us. I mean, like, energy is never destroyed. We are literally the universe pretending to be separate people. Everything is together in the singularity, and the universe exists for infinity. Wouldn't infinity get pretty boring, just sitting there forever? But if you get to project it onto this holographic screen, that's a pretty entertaining way to spend reality, is getting to experience all versions of it
Yeah.
and having it always seem new.
It's a
Because
game.
like, if you lived forever, the boredom would just kill you. You would have experienced everything, but dying is like losing decoherence. It's like what in the movie Tron they call it derez, losing resolution. That's what dying is. It's losing coherence, and when you live again, that's this information pattern that is you coming back into coherence, where it
Interesting.
forms a state that you can observe and that reinforces itself, doesn't destroy itself through destructive interference.
Okay, I have another question. I love interviewing. So we have about 10 minutes. What is the most important thing you know right now that you need humanity to know?
That we all have way more in common than we have as differences. We are all the same thing. We are all literally pieces of the singularity. If you sum every person and every state and every molecule, every quantum state, everything in the universe together, that equals the singularity. So we are each pieces of the singularity projected onto a large surface area that makes us feel separate, yet we are all bits of information from this one ultimate source of truth, which is the singularity. And when I say truth, you can look at it spiritually and you can look at it scientifically. Spiritually, it's the sum of all possible information. Scientifically, it's the superposition of all quantum states, which is the same thing. It's like geometry, or like artists and scientists are talking about the same thing. They're both talking about geometry.
Yeah.
Religion and science are actually talking about the same thing, and we are slowly converging. Like somebody said right here, one light. Yes, we are all one, and we are light, and we are specifically light and the information that light can encode through its geometry.
Okay,
So,
let me ask you this then. I have to now apply my theory to you and see your opinion. So in my book, A New Force, everybody sign up. The link is in my bio. It'll come out next year. I have this theory, what you call the singularity, I call our higher self or our multidimensional self, right? And we have a direct access to that if we know how to harness it. We also are teaching that that singularity collectively and individually is continually evolving by feedbacking off what you call information, I call consciousness and plasma or Hawking radiation. That feedback loop is consistently evolving. And it also is a way we can harness those things to astral project, to in meditation, we can harness a certain anyway, it seems to be a feedback of three things that can make you live a better life, feel more connected, know you're not alone. Have you seen what is the significance of the number 3 to you? What has shown up in your work with this number 3?
So 3 is what makes the triangles. But it gets kind of, it all comes down 3. If you look at it, space-time is composed of qubits, and those qubits are hexagons, and the hexagons decompose into little pieces, and each piece is a equilateral triangle, a triangle with each sides where all 3 sides are equal. And so it is the fundamental building block, the fundamental bit of information are these little triangles. But what's even cooler is that everything, you can break it down into what I call the one informational constant, and that is the number pi. Pi is literally every single thing we can describe everything in the universe with one thing, and that is light and information, but the information can be described with pi. So again, it's a long explanation, but when you can take any measurement of angles and convert it into measurements made by the number pi. So when you have a measurement of an angle, to convert it into what's called pi radians, you multiply the angle by pi as a fraction, pi over 180. So every straight line is 2 right triangles, and each right triangle is 90 degrees. So every straight line is 180 degrees. Every triangle, when you add up all 3 of the inner angles, it always equals exactly 180 degrees. When you convert degrees into pi radians, you multiply the degrees by pi over 180. Anything that's 180 degrees, which is all straight lines and all triangles, 180 degrees times pi is 180 times pi over 180. 180 divided by 180 is 1. 1 times pi is pi. So anything that is 180 degrees is exactly pi radians. So every triangle and every straight line, which compose all the information on the qubits, is a different manifestation of
Yeah.
pi moving relative to itself, which is also light. It's just straight lines relative to straight lines and qubits, which is just pi radians relative to pi radians.
Okay, well that proves
It's
that
kind of a weird one. It's more mathematical, but it is true.
no,
Every
it
single
proves
shape
it
can be
though. And I just
decomposed into bits
yeah.
of pi, you know,
It
which is
just
just
it proves what I said, that everything is almost like a triple feedback, and we are as well, and that's how you harness the magic of the
yes.
universe.
And that's what the singularity and the event horizon are, is a feedback loop. It's a self-referential feedback loop where the hologram uses the other holograms to describe itself. Like if I'm in the vastness of empty space and I'm moving 1,000,000 miles an hour, how do you know I'm moving 1,000,000 miles an hour if you don't see trees and everything whizzing by me? You can't tell that
Yeah.
I'm moving at all.
There
But
needs
when
to
you
be
have other bits of light to say I'm moving relative to,
yeah.
then you can say I'm moving at such and such a velocity because I can compare it relative to something else.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, I was thanking people for
sorry, I talk with my hands a lot.
no,
I
you're
get so
good. I
excited.
talk with my hands too. People make
Yeah.
fun of me flapping all over the place. No, you just proved so much in my mind though, that everything is reference points, and you need these other things to be able to have this experience. So yeah.
Yes. Again, and it's one of those things that like
Oh, thanks,
it
Ron.
always surprises me where you find how we all really are talking about similar things, and how like how you understand this better, like I said, than many physicists. And so Richard Feynman, he won the Nobel Prize for basically discovering quantum mechanics, and he said something that applies what I think to this here
Tell
is
me.
a lot of these physicists or scientists, even though they're brilliant and they're doing fantastic things, they have the PhD ego, where they think I've got this little piece of paper where I memorize test scores for a lot of them, and that makes me super smart. And what Richard Feynman said is a lot of these scientists that he met have confused their degree with intelligence, or they've
Yeah.
confused their degree with with intelligence. You know,
Yeah.
so
With I think real genius is being in touch with your soul and truth.
yes, and if you can't say something simply, you don't understand it. When I ask a professor, you tell me what time dilation is, they'll sit there for 3 days or 3 weeks trying to show you piece by piece, and you know that they don't understand it. We do. We
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
now that time dilation is the angle that you're traveling through space relative to a qubit axis, or the angular frequency.
Oh,
So,
Jason's gift gallery. If anyone gifts Jason in the next 10 minutes before we get off, you get some kind of percentage points in the live fest. I don't know what the heck that means, but gift away if you guys like this.
yeah, that would be, yeah, it's amazing. I'm just now discovering social media. I've been so absorbed. Dana got me into this. Dana was like, you got to start doing something with this, and she's been helping me a lot. Dana has been incredible. I'm hoping to be able to come to the Center of Consciousness thing next year, but I'm
Yes,
not sure
the
if I'll make
Science
it.
of Consciousness Conference. Hopefully, Stuart has you speak. Either way, I think I'm eventually going to do something where I can bring together like everyone we kind of like in some kind of conference. I'm
Yeah,
going to
that would be
call
fun.
it I'm going to call it Holonic Metadynamics, which I know sounds like colonic, but it's basically what you're doing. It's bringing together science, art, philosophy, metaphysics, and explaining in a grounded way these things we're talking about. It's cracking open science.
Yes.
Oh,
In fact,
thank you for the gifts, everyone.
thank you guys so much. Really appreciate it.
I'll do this again, guys. We'll talk about it. We'll do this like once a month, guys. And I'm going to try to put this video on YouTube. I hope it recorded. I think it might have, which will be awesome.
If not, we can do it again. Like I said, Dan and I talk on the phone, and it's just like this. We talk forever, and we just get so excited about it because it's what we all want to know. We all want to know where we come from, where we're going, what we are, and it is understandable. And we're at that point now to where we can say it in terms that we all can understand. And I just love it. I just love it.
I do too. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. I'm just trying to get rushed to the time. I think what's special about Jason, and I will say myself as well, maybe this is my ego, I don't know, is that we're not looking for financial benefit. We're not doing this for financial benefit. Like, obviously, yes, we would love to, oh, you can gift me. Now I'm being a hypocrite. But we're not like doing a bunch of courses or trying to take advantage of you guys financially. Like, we want to spread the truth. And if money comes to us, it comes to us. But I'm I think Jason is the same way, and I can see that in his heart, where he just wants to say the truth. We don't want you guys to feel in pain. We don't want you guys to feel alone. We want you to feel self-empowered to live an amazing life, and however we can contribute to that, amazing. And if I can make a conference and do it at the cheapest point but still live a lifestyle, I'm gonna do that for you guys. So we'll try to figure that out.
Every one of you is within us, and we are within every one of you, and that is the definition of a hologram. We are all the same thing, and we're just scratching the surface. It's like we are just starting to understand what we are and what we're going to be able to do with this in the near future. We're going to be able to encode and like this appears to solve the Fermi paradox. Like if there's aliens everywhere, why aren't we seeing aliens everywhere? Yeah. Because they would be traveling everywhere. Well, once you get to the point where you understand what reality is, and it's a quantum computational process that's a hologram, we can encode quantum computers and make a like a holodeck or a simulation of every possible reality. You don't need to leave your planet to explore all possible planets, because you can make a simulation that is absolutely equivalent to reality in the computer. So when you reach this point to where we are now reaching, there is no need to travel the universe, because you can travel the universe in your simulations. And that's why I believe that we're not seeing.
That's okay, guys. Literally, my book is going to be about how to travel the universe, where we're in what Jason said. We're in this holographic box where everything's on top of each other in different densities. We can travel anywhere with our consciousness, and eventually maybe technology can show us more visuals, or we could wear a suit where we feel the world we're traveling in. But either way, reality is going to get really freaking weird and crazy.
Real quick. Because our senses, when we see stuff, that is just our brain interpreting the information and assigning smells, taste, touch, texture. And now that we understand that our brain is just decoding this information, we can code it into a quantum computer, and to the beings inside that computer, their reality is just as real as our reality is to us, because our reality is a quantum computer that's on the event horizon of a black hole. It's the same thing. We are AI. We are artificial intelligence that just occurs naturally that is on the event horizon, inventing artificial intelligence. It's recursive also. We are AI inventing AI.
We're plasma intelligence, guys, holding our consciousness. That's what I like. And last question, we have 4 minutes. What do you think aliens are? Obviously, maybe they're from some different planets, but they're also these obviously beings of consciousness. Do you think they're our future selves? What do you think they are?
Yeah, every possible version of reality is real. So when I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, it was the best movie. Whoever wrote that, I'm like, they're thinking about it the right way. It's weird, but it's the right way. Anything that you can imagine is a possible configuration of the holographic screen, which means it's real somewhere. The only question is how often the probabilities, the information density, how often does this universe happen relative to another one? What are common histories and what are uncommon, but they all actually happen? And in fact, when I go to the door, I don't calculate myself walking to the door. In quantum mechanics, we calculate all possible versions of me walking to the door, and those waves cancel each other out, and the one that doesn't cancel out describes what happens in reality. Yes. So what happens in reality is dependent on all the realities that don't happen. If they don't happen, how do they affect what does?
Oh my God.
So what happens in reality is the sum of all possible histories, and that's Richard Feynman's quantum mechanics.
What happens when we sleep? Huh? Really quick, we have 3 minutes, and this is an interesting question. What happens when we sleep? Where do you think we go?
I've thought about any dream that we have is real. Somewhere it's a reality. So when you're dreaming, you are literally seeing other realities. The only question is how often do they happen relative to ours, but they're real.
I think that too. That is so I agree. I basically think that we go into this, our consciousness goes into the plasma field. It flips upside down from this reality, and we go see in this box of densities, we go to different densities with these different realities where we need to maybe learn an emotional lesson with what's going on in our life. I think it is like death. I think it's the same plane that holds the soul.
Yeah. And again, it's just when you die, it's just a moment not being here. What's wild about this is it does make you have to start accepting some weird stuff. We have to accept, and it is real, that all every version of reality, a car driving by me is something different to somebody else, and it actually is that to them. So it's really weird.
We have to accept everyone's truths. That'll bring us more together, is trying to understand why they think the way instead of fighting against it. Because what someone believes is true to them, and we need to understand why instead of being like, no, think this way. Well, what if they see that your shirt is green? You can't convince them it's blue.
Yes, and really all it is just a wavelength, and it's that information being interpreted that you call a color, but everybody else moving at different speeds sees a different bit of information, which is then defined as a different bit of color. Time dilate or length contraction happens, so the shapes change. You can change everything about what it is that you're looking at, and to that observer, it is that.
Thank you. Okay, guys, I have to close this live out, but please follow Jason right now. Jason, tell them your Facebook again.
It's just, I wish I should have written down the address. It's just Jason Padgett. I have a regular profile and also have a public profile. And then I'm also on TikTok, thanks to Dana. And I just started it a while ago. But I've got lots of videos on my TikTok and they go into detail. They're 3 to 4 minutes long each, but it goes into alternate realities. It goes into time dilation, the singularity. And I'm going to be making more that go into the equations, even though that's a little bit more boring. For me, it's important that I prove it to these physicists.
Yes.
Thank you guys for all the great comments. I wish I had time to respond to all of them because you guys are just amazing.
Feel free to gift Jason and say thank you so much for being
here. Guys.
Again.
I can't wait to talk to you guys again. Dana and I will do this again and write down your questions and a real theory of everything. We can apply it to everything. So don't feel weird about asking any questions that seem weird. Those sometimes are the most fun questions to talk about.
Yeah, so guys, write down your questions. We're going to go live again. Follow me and Jason so you can see when we're live. I'll plan the next live. You can go to my website, danakippel.com, to learn about more plasma intelligence stuff. You can go, Jason, do you have a website or is it just your Facebook?
Oh, yeah, I have a website at Fine Art America where I sell a lot of the drawings. The drawings, we just had a guy buy 7 of them for $50,000. It was unbelievable. What? I could not believe it. I can't say who, but it was just... It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. He's a billionaire. The guy's a billionaire, and he contacted me, and I thought at first it was a spam or like a phishing scam for email. And I eventually responded thinking it was fake, and through a series of events, eventually found out this guy was real. We wound up talking, and he bought some of my drawings and wants to buy some more later.
Oh, that makes me so happy. Well, if you guys want the same drawings as the billionaire, go look them on his website.
It's beautiful. We're all going to be able to do it. And now with AI, we all can create a lot of these images faster. Mine are all hand-drawn, but now I'm starting to use AI to make them because they are fast. Oh, the website again is Fine Art America. So just type in Jason Padgett, Fine Art America, and it has a lot of the original drawings that I did.
Fine or find?
Fine, FINEART America. Fine, like
artamerica.com.
America.com, and just my name, Jason, and it'll pop up.
Okay, guys, Fine Art, R-A-R-T, fineartamerica.com.
Yeah.
And then you can go to his TikTok or his Facebook. And then for me, just follow me on TikTok or go to danakippel.com for my plasma book. We'll come on again.
Yes. Dana's going to be the next Joe Rogan.
Oh my God. I don't see, the thing is, bigger. I feel like for a podcast, I just think like I would love to interview people, but it's like, I need to finish my book and it's too hard to do all this at once. But maybe when I'm done with my book, I can do some type of like, I'd rather do some kind of like cool YouTube show. So.
Yeah. And you and you'll talk about plasma and I'll talk about black holes no matter what they say.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I can't have a podcast, because I'll bring up plasma in every freaking podcast. But
that's all right.
I'll talk about my own stuff, okay? But I do understand Jason's stuff is actually very complimentary to mine, which is why we talk about this stuff. But anyway, thank you guys so much. You guys are amazing. I have nothing else to say. Jason, thank you. I'm going to call you really quick just to debrief after this.
Okay, and then again, we'll try to do this again real soon and go from there.
Woo! I wish I put makeup on for this because so many people were on this. Okay, bye guys.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye bye. How do I get off? Oh, okay. Yeah.